Hello and welcome to Slooh, where our global community of space enthusiasts, amateur astronomers, and students gather around our live telescopes every night under our shared sky. Now, our members use Slooh's telescopes in the Canary Islands, Chile, and Australia to capture stunning images of celestial objects and to share their perspective and expertise, whether or not it's the science or connections to art, literature, culture, history, as they explore the wonders of the night sky. And we use our interactive Quest learning activities, which we'll show you a little bit later. But today's special live event is one of my personal favorites. It's the night the moon blushes, a total lunar eclipse, sometimes known as a blood moon. Now, I'm Paul Cox, your host, and together with our expert and special guests, we'll be diving into the science of the moon and lunar eclipses with a special focus on how people and cultures down the ages have come together to share this awe and wonder at the night sky. We've also got some exciting news about our lunar eclipse poetry contest. We'll be hearing some of those entries, and our special guest will be announcing the winner. Now, before we invite our first guest on, let's take a quick look at the live feeds we have lined up tonight. Now, already this one live from Astro NZ, that's Andrew Buckingham in association with the Auckland Astronomical Society with their live feed from New Zealand. And we can see already that the full moon is not looking so full. It's already being eclipsed partially. We haven't got any colour yet, though, so that'll be good. And coming online in a short while, we'll have our live feed from Rick Tonello at the Gravity Discovery Centre and Observatory in Western Australia. And hopefully, if their weather holds out, our friends at the Institute Technologia Bandung will have live feeds for us from their Bosca Observatory. That's the oldest modern observatory in Indonesia. Now then, don't forget, Slooh members can snap images from our live feeds tonight. Just head over to the Star Party page and select either of the feeds. So New Zealand's online at the moment, which is feed number 2. Then press that camera icon to capture images of this remarkable event, just like members do actually every night when they control our telescopes to capture the moon, planets, comets, a couple of great comets at the moment, asteroids, stars, star clusters, galaxies, and nebulae. Now, you're going to be able to use those images in our special Eclipse Quest learning activity that we'll show you later. So that's what we're going to see, but what are we going to learn about and discuss with our special guest? Well, we're honoured today to welcome Slooh's president, Dr. Emma Kane-Loudon. She's going to be joined by our special guest, Eliana Ramage, author of the beautiful novel To the Moon and Back. If you haven't read it, buy it now. We got Dr. John Bovair, Slooh's Director of Curriculum. He's going to be here to explain the eclipse and hopefully give us a preview of that quest that he's written especially for tonight's event. And we've also got long-time members and Slooh champions, Keith Wozaleski and Milton Villarroel, and they're going to be giving us an Eclipse 101, explaining the peculiar phenomena of lunar libration, and Milton will be sharing some lunar mythology, which is always cool. Rick Tonello, he's going to join us from the Gravity Discovery Centre, and he's going to be telling us about their outreach work and discuss actually how lunar eclipses have been perceived by one of the world's oldest continuing cultures with deep traditions of sky lore and storytelling. So that's something to look forward to later. Andrew Buckingham from Astro NZ, who's providing the New Zealand feed that we're watching now. He's going to be joining us to tell us about their amazing outreach work as well. Don't forget, Slooh members can join us in Zoom to ask questions throughout the event. So we've got plenty to look forward to. Let's get started and welcome my first guest. So let me hop over and we are going to welcome Dr. John Bovair. Hello, John. How are you?
Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well. I mean, looking at this amazing image coming in from New Zealand, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is. I've already snapped a handful of images.
Excellent, excellent. So, John, what time is it there for you? Because it's a good one for me today. It's 10:30 here in the UK. We've got people joining us from around the world, but what time of day or night is it for you?
It's 2:30 in the morning for me.
2:30. Okay. Well, you're looking pretty good for that, I have to say. So, John, we were
Thank
talking
you.
about Quest learning activities. Um, Tell us very briefly what a Slooh Quest learning activity and what members can do with them.
So, Slooh Quests, they're interactive learning activities that members use Slooh's telescope and our satellite feeds to complete. They cover fascinating topics in science such as astronomy, computer science, earth science, physics, but they also cover non-science topics like social studies, history, culture, mythology, art, literature, and more.
Wow.
Slooh has over 100 interactive lessons that challenge members to use Slooh to collect and analyze their own data, form their own conclusions, and inspire them to do their own projects with Slooh.
And that's what's special, I think, about Slooh quests rather than boring old lesson plans, because all of the quests that you develop, our members have to capture images and data using Slooh's live telescopes to use in those quests, don't they?
Yes, they do. And since they're doing that, they're actually kind of building the quest themselves as they're working through it. It's really exciting.
Brilliant. So, how about? I know you normally come up with something special. Have we got a special quest for tonight's event?
We do. Thank you, Gretchen, for bringing up the special lunar quest for tonight. There's three special quests for this full moon.
Well,
There's our special moments quest for the eclipse called the Total Lunar Eclipse 2026. In this one, members learn the science behind lunar eclipses and they make an epic poster featuring up to 49 snapped images from tonight's show. So the only way that members can complete that quest is by snapping images here tonight. So make sure you're snapping away, members, and collecting a nice collection of images for that one.
brilliant.
We also have another quest called the Worm Moon 2026 quest because the March full moon is typically called the Worm Moon, and so that quest will teach you why this moon is called the Worm Moon and what other cultures around the world have named this month's full moon. And to top it off, Slooh has a full moons of 2026 quest, which is like a punch card for every full moon of the year, which there's going to be 13 of them. May has a blue moon. So this one is really fun because you learn all about supermoons and micromoons and supermoon frequencies. And so members can embark on this quest even if they missed a few full moons. So if that's you, don't let that discourage you from going on this quest.
That is a wonderful collection, John. I particularly, I mean, I love the lunar eclipse one tonight, but the full moons of 2026, I love that. I love tracking the full moons throughout the year, and we're going to talk a little bit later about the names of a lot of those full moons as well. But have we got any other quests involving the moon that space enthusiasts and students can participate in?
Yes, we do. We have loads of quests for members to complete surrounding the moon. Gretchen, can we see the next slide that where the moon quests are? So here's
Wow.
the list of them. Now, I'm not going to go over every single one of these, but I'm going to just talk about a few of them. So we have the lunar phases quest, which is of course about the phases of the moon. There's the lunar features quest, which is a different kind, which goes over the different kinds of features that you'll find on the moon. We also have our cratered neighbor, which covers kinetic energy and how craters form. One of my favorite ones, though, is the Apollo program, which teaches members about the
Hmm,
Apollo mission and it gets everybody pumped up for the upcoming Project Artemis when we're going back to the moon. Members can review what happened in each mission to the moon, and they capture images of the moon when the Terminator is near each of the landing sites, which help them kind of see the features nearby. And they actually take these little lunar module stickers and plot the locations of all six of the Apollo landing sites
love
on
it.
their own Slooh captures. Finally, we have the Mauna Kea Inca moon that I want to point out, which covers three Inca myths about the moon. And one of them we may hear a little bit later from Milton Villarreal. He's actually the one that authored that particular quest.
Brilliant. So during quests, you learn about all manner of things, a topic at hand, but what happens at the end of a quest when somebody completes the quest, John?
That's a really good question, and I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but let's really dive into it. Now, maybe we can see the next slide, Gretchen. Slooh quests culminate in members creating a poster-sized infographic that showcases the images captured with Slooh's telescopes. These are really poster size. A lot of folks will print these out on plotters and hang them up in their offices and rooms and classrooms. And so here's a couple example of some of our lunar posters. And so they serve as a summative assessment of the quest, and a lot of members share them in their portfolios. They share them as observations, which is really exciting. Can we move to the next slide now, Gretchen? Thank you so much. And what's
Oh,
really
they're good.
cool What's really cool is the infographic posters incorporate responses to questions in the quest. So these are personalized infographics that foster a series of accomplishment while providing a fun, easy tool to recall the content during the quest.
So I guess that means that not every member's quest poster turns out the same, John.
That's true. No, every poster is unique. No two posters are alike. Members are using their own captured images, so two different members may be using a slightly different lunar phase for their gibbouses and crescent moons. They may be using a different Slooh telescope or a different Slooh observatory. But what's even more exciting, well, I don't know if that's more exciting, but what's also exciting is members can edit and redesign all elements of the poster. So they can change the colors, the fonts, they can even move around where the boxes are on the posters. So truly, no two posters are alike. Every poster is unique. And this flexibility allows members to explore their artistic expression and create something
Yeah.
that speaks to them and for them. So, for example, with the Total Lunar Eclipse 2026 quest, you can arrange your eclipse captures any way you'd like. You don't have to stick to columns and rows of images. You can make a little spiral or a figure eight and show the progression of the eclipse. So
Yeah.
it's all up to you.
Get really creative. We want to see some absolutely wonderful lunar eclipse posters. Maybe tomorrow we'll let people go to bed in the meantime, but make sure you capture as many images from the feeds as you can, so that you can use your poster. But John, creating static posters is not the only thing they can do with their images, is that? I'm looking forward to this one.
That's right. That's right. Slooh has a Slooh animation quest where members can take all of the snapped images from tonight's show and turn them into a GIF animation, which is really exciting. So it's really important to make sure that, even though the moon isn't red yet, we can still see the shadow starting, well, almost engulfing the whole thing.
Yeah.
Make sure you're snapping images so that you can turn all of your images from the show into this grand, epic time-lapse animation.
Oh, that's going to be so good. I'm so looking forward to seeing those. Thank you, John. What a wonderful way to engage with tonight's eclipse. We're going to see you later to learn more about the phases and phenomena of the eclipse. But thank you very
Looking
much for
forward
that,
to it.
John.
You're
Now
welcome.
let's get into the science of what we're actually watching unfold here before our very eyes. Up next, Slooh champion Keith Wozaleski, who's going to take us through Lunar Eclipse 101. Welcome, Keith. How are you?
Very well, Paul. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this, one of my favorite astronomical events. I
I,
love lunar eclipses, and we've got a great image here. Before we look at any slides, I just
mm,
want to point out the fact we're more than 50%, so we're going to
yeah,
start seeing some color here any moment.
yeah,
And of course, what we're looking at tonight is the moon is passing through the shadow that's cast by the Earth. And one thing you may notice, very different than a solar eclipse, we don't have that very sharp uh, uh, outline of the moon across the sun. It's more of a soft
mm,
edge, a found edge, because the shadow is more of a gradual transition. So it's a beautiful image right now. And like I
It
said,
is.
any minute now we can start expecting to see some color. We don't have to wait for the totality to set in. So it's a good
Yeah.
picture.
It's going to be interesting to see who can spot the color. This is an absolutely epic live stream from Andrew Buckingham at Astro NZ down in association with the Auckland Astronomical Society. I did see a message in chat as well, Keith. Um, long time member Keith Smith. He lives there, and he it sounds like he's actually at an Astro NZ shop watching this from outside on the pavement, presumably. But Keith, let's go absolutely back to basics for people who have never seen a lunar eclipse or don't know what a lunar eclipse is. What happens to the moon? We can see it here, but what happens to the moon during a lunar eclipse?
So, Gretchen, slide one number, please. We are going to look what happens. So
Oh,
the moon is basically passing through the shadow that's cast by the Earth. I always say we have three major players here. The first, of course, is the sun. The sun is our light source, and it's radiating light in every direction throughout the solar system. And when that happens, when the light hits a planet like the Earth, it is going to cast a shadow. The Earth is not the only planet to do this. We see on the Slooh telescopes the moons of Jupiter cast shadows upon the
mm,
planet's surface. We see Saturn casting its shadow upon its own rings. The only time we get to see the Earth's shadow or the effects of it is when the moon passes in front of it. So we have the moon in orbit around the Earth. The Earth will cast two, well, it casts one shadow, but it has two components to it. The first is the penumbral shadow. This is a very faint outer shadow that we do not usually see when we see the moon live. If you go out to look during any penumbral eclipse where the moon is only in that part of the shadow, you pretty much don't see anything. You need to have a special kind of filter that we have on Slooh or with our feed partners to see anything. Tonight, the moon is going to pass into that darker inner part of the shadow, what we call the umbra. These are words to not be afraid of. Umbra coming from the Latin, meaning to envelop or to cover. It's the same word that we get that we use for umbrella. The penumbra is the part that comes before the umbra. The moon moves about one moon's distance an hour, so it'll spend about an hour in that darker umbral shadow, and then it will move back out into the penumbral shadow again. We need the special filters that we have tonight. So we may see a slight darkening, but basically we're going to lose that darkening of the moon that we have when it's in that umbral shadow.
that is a great graphic, isn't it? Let's hop back to the live feed so that we can see. So, what are we seeing here in relation to that graphic that you just showed then, Keith? And when are we
Ooh, yeah, we're
expected to
moving.
see a bit of color?
Yeah, so we do have the moon moving through that umbral shadow. It's almost in the center, so
Mm,
we're approaching maximum lunar eclipse. I would have expected color by now, but that could be an exposure issue. When it enters into the center of the umbral shadow, that's when we're going to start to see the moon blush. But we
yeah,
still have a little bit of sliver of the moon there. That's part of the moon that's still in that penumbral shadow, but the rest of
yeah.
the moon is completely
So
more or less vanished.
I
Uh,
suspect, Keith, when the exposure on that video camera is changed slightly, we will see some color there. Because Keith Smith, who is watching live down in Auckland, he said he's sitting on his balcony, and yes, he can start seeing some color now. So
yeah.
going back to that diagram, if an eclipse occurs when the Earth is between the moon and the sun, why don't we get an eclipse every month during full moon?
You, you would think that you would, but we have a great animation. So, Gretchen, the animation slide, please. It's because if we draw a line between the Earth and the Sun, we need to have the moon in that same path, in that same alignment. So, as we watch the moon in orbit around the Earth, we would think that once a month it
Hmm.
comes into the general area of that
Ah,
alignment, but it's not always in the same plane as the Earth and the Sun. So sometimes it's below, sometimes it's above. The moon orbits the Earth at about a 5-degree tilt, and it actually wobbles like a plate if you set a plate on a counter and let it do its thing. You need to have the moon directly in the same lineup as the sun and the earth. That happens once every 6 months or so. We have what we call an eclipse season. So, Gretchen, we can go to the next slide. Yeah. So, a lot of times the moon is above or below the shadow of the earth. It's not in that same plane that the earth and the sun is. We need to have it exactly in the center. Gretchen, next slide, please. And that's where we're going to be tonight. And interesting
Okay.
thing about this is, uh, uh, if you notice, you can see sort of the penumbral and the umbral shadow. Depending on how well the moon is placed in that alignment of the sun and the earth, will determine a number of things. Number one, if we're even going to have an eclipse, uh, what type of eclipse we're going to have. Sometimes the moon only passes through that penumbral shadow, and that's all we see. Sometimes it sort of nips part of the umbral shadow. We have a partial lunar eclipse. Tonight we're going to be in the umbral shadow, and Dr. John is going to talk about later. Uh, how well it's placed in that will determine how long it is. But usually it's about an hour of totality because it takes that long for the moon to make its way through this very large shadow that's cast by the Earth out into space.
That's brilliant. So we haven't planned on talking about this, but we've got some time, Keith. Looking at that alignment, we normally see some kind of lunar eclipse very close, normally 2 weeks or so
Yeah.
away from a solar eclipse. Does that have to do with this alignment as well?
Yeah, exactly right. So, if you notice, because the moon is pretty much in that same plane, you can imagine in 2 weeks' time, when we're at new moon, which is when a solar eclipse occurs, it hasn't moved all that much. We do talk about an eclipse season where you can begin with a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse and then have one or the other one, and even have a third. In fact, we began with an annular eclipse. Uh, about 2 weeks ago. It was visible only in Antarctica, so it was in that lower part of the of its orbit around the Earth. So there is that relationship. So yeah, the moon doesn't move a whole lot out of
Whoa!
that period. So we change the exposure. We've got
There we
the
go.
moon is starting to blush. It looks good, and we have that illumined part still yet to be covered by the umbral shadow.
Yeah.
So we have a little of
So
both yet. Looks good.
So, Keith, that is absolutely perfect timing for my next question, which was going to be, why does the moon change color during a total lunar eclipse?
Let's take a look at the next slide, Gretchen. This is the slide that explains it all. When we have that light source, the sun, uh, casting its light upon the Earth has an atmosphere, and that atmosphere has an effect on the light. Now, sunlight, if you look at any child's drawing, usually we color the sun yellow. Here it's very nice, sort of a deep orangish color. Sunlight itself is actually white, and it comprises all the colors of the spectrum. But when it hits the Earth's atmosphere, a number of things happen. First of all, the shorter wavelengths of light, the blue, indigo, violet, and green, the cool parts of the spectrum get scattered out. They get diffracted out into space. So that's part one. Part two is the atmosphere also acts kind of like a lens. It allows the longer wavelengths of light, the red, orange, yellow, the warmer end of the spectrum, to kind of funnel around the Earth. And that is what's reflecting off of the moon. And that's why we get that beautiful, sort of a peachy color. That's why the
Yeah.
moon is going to blush tonight. Sometimes you hear it called other colors. And in fact, if you listen to the popular media, they make it sound like this is a rare thing that only this month, you're going to see this. This happens every time we have a lunar eclipse because the moon comes into that relationship. The light is always bending around it because of the Earth's atmosphere. So we're always having some type of color, although that varies.
Yeah.
This is a lot more red than usual. So the moon is definitely blushing. But again, it's reflecting that light that's been filtered through the Earth's atmosphere, bending around it kind of, and reflecting off the surface of the full moon. We still see a little bit of white light reflected on the limb there. We're going to lose that as we enter into
Yeah.
the fullness of
Uh,
the April shadow.
10 minutes time, we should see that disappear. I have to say, the color does change perceptibly depending on what camera and telescope people are using. But often, when I've watched a lunar eclipse with my own eyes, I often call it more peach color than a red color. But Keith, before you go, if you were standing on the moon, if you were to be as lucky as anyone to be able to stand on the moon during a lunar eclipse, you'd look back at the night side of Earth. What would you see?
This is the task for Slooh. Boy, do we want a telescope on the moon because we are going to be observing a solar eclipse, the sun being eclipsed by the Earth. And
Yes.
the cool thing is that the Earth is about 3 to 4 times larger than the moon. So we have many more opportunities to see an event like this than we do with the lunar eclipse. So the annular eclipse, of course, the moon was too far away from the Earth for it to fully cover the disk of the sun. That's not a problem if you're on the moon tonight. You are seeing a solar eclipse, the sun being eclipsed by the moon. Very cool
Uh,
event.
and we'd probably see the dark orb of Earth surrounded by this reddish, pinkish glow, wouldn't we?
Yeah, it's a great thing. I have the opportunity to do quite a bit with the moon here on Slooh, and I have to let you in on a secret.
Oh,
I think I know why the moon is blushing this evening,
go on.
and we may share that. It's because she's sharing a side of herself that we don't always get to see. We will talk about that at the very end of the Star Party. So if anybody wants to find out what I'm talking
Oh,
about, I think we'll save it till then. But other than that, what a great event. Sounds simple in terms of scientific terms, but I think we should always consider the just the awe and wonder of these
mm,
planetary alignments. Don't forget, the sun is 92 million miles away,
yeah.
and it shines on the Earth a shadow long enough to reach, 240,000 miles. It's still kind of mind-boggling.
It is remarkable, but I kind of love all the figures as well. I'm in awe and wonder with just the scale of everything, as well as just the pure majesty of all of this. Keith, thank you so much. What a fantastic primer on the lunar eclipse. And the timing couldn't be more perfect. The total phase begins in just about 6 minutes. That's when we're going to see that last little bit of white phase going. Now, thank you, Keith. We'll see you a little bit later.
Very good. Thank
Joining
you, Paul.
me now, or rejoining me now, is Dr. John Beauvais, who's Director of Curriculum, to walk through the various phases of a lunar eclipse and some of the fascinating phenomena that we're witnessing. John, the moon is about to fully blush. Take it away. What are the phases of a lunar eclipse?
There's 7 phases in total of a lunar
Wow.
eclipse, or stages, if you will, that the moon moves through. The first one is called P1, first contact. This is when the penumbral eclipse begins. We already missed that. That's when that outer part that Keith was showing, the outer part of the Earth shadow, starts to engulf the moon, and the change is pretty subtle. The moon just looks a little bit dimmer than it normally does. And first contact is when that penumbral shadow touches the moon's outer limb. The next phase is called second contact, or U1. This is when the partial eclipse begins. This is when the Earth's inner shadow, the umbra, starts to take a dark bite out of the moon. And that's pretty much where we were when we started well, we were actually a lot further along than that when we started the feed tonight. The shadow grows over time, and so the second contact is when the the umbra touches the moon's outer limb. So the next one is third contact. This is when the total eclipse begins, and we're just about to reach that in about 5 minutes time. This is when the entire moon is in the umbra. So we can still see on the upper right portion of the feeds, we still have a little bit of the penumbra there. So pretty soon the moon will be in that, and instead of going completely dark, it'll turn a reddish color because the Earth's atmosphere bends sunlight into the shadow, as Keith pointed out in our last segment. It's basically all of the sunrises and sunsets of the Earth are hitting the moon at that moment. And then we reach maximum eclipse. And this is going to happen, well, a little bit later, I think in about 30 minutes or so. This is the peak phase of the total eclipse. This is when the moon is at its closest to the center of the Earth's umbra shadow. And then the rest of the phases of a lunar eclipse are basically the first three phases in reverse order. U3 is when the total eclipse ends. This is when the moon starts to leave the umbra, and we'll see that bright sunlight starting to return to the moon. And then there's U4, which is the partial eclipse ending. This is when the last bit of the Earth's umbra moves off of the moon, but the moon is still in the penumbra. And so then P4 is when the penumbral eclipse ends. The eclipse is over, the moon looks normal again and very bright.
So, John, how do you tell then when the total eclipse phase at U2 is about to start?
So you'll know when totality is about to begin when the last part of the moon disappears into the dark's umbral shadow. So the entire moon starts to turn reddish and it marks the start of the total eclipse. Just about to get there.
We are. And, you know, Andrew Buckingham down at Astro NZ is doing a marvelous job here because it's really difficult to set the exposure time of your video camera and the gain and everything else to get this balance because we're dealing still with a very, very bright region of the moon, but we need to up the exposure so that we can see that dark phase. But in a few minutes' time, that gets a lot easier because it's not totally evenly illuminated. It will be mid eclipse, but that means that the exposure time can be set to illuminate the whole of the moon absolutely perfectly. But look at these colors, they are absolutely remarkable, aren't they, John?
They are. I love it. I've been snapping away and this is just some great blushing of the moon tonight.
Yeah, we've got our other feeds going to come online shortly. But, John, a common misconception about lunar eclipses is that the moon goes through all of the lunar phases that we normally see each month. This can't be true based on the diagrams you've shared already. What can you say about that misconception and what clues can we see on the moon to support that?
Yeah, I mean you're entirely correct. There's this misconception that all of the lunar phases are happening tonight, but that's not what's happening. The relationship between the lunar phases and what we see on the moon is due to the moon orbiting around the Earth. But tonight, instead, the moon is getting engulfed by the Earth's shadow, and so. The portion of the moon that we see is always the portion of the moon that's reflecting sunlight, and this causes long shadows to be cast on the moon. And so we typically have a terminator on the moon when it's not full. But tonight we don't have a terminator. Tonight the umbra is engulfing the moon, so it moved from the bottom of the feed of the moon in the feed all the way up to the top right of the feed. And so we're not going to see any crescents, quarters, or gibbous moons tonight. We're just going to see the moon getting
Yeah.
enveloped by a shadow.
Yeah. And it's as Keith pointed out right at the beginning, and we'll see it later as well when we go out of the total phase. There's a big difference, you know, between the lunar eclipse kind of curvature is kind of graduated. It's not crisp like the Terminator is that we normally see. But is the moon going to be the same shade of red throughout the entire disk as we go through the eclipse?
It's not, and we can actually kind of see that now, how the right side
Yeah.
of the feed is not as red as the left side of the feed. And I have a slide to show. Gretchen, can you bring up the lunar trajectory slide for me, please? So this is the
Ah,
trajectory that the moon is taking. The dark gray circle, that's the Earth's umbra, and the outer circle, that's the Earth's penumbra. And the moon is traveling from right to left in this diagram. And so we're going to see the moon uh, appearing darker on the northern part of the moon than the southern part. Now, the northern part in this particular um, diagram is the part where most of the Maria is. The feed is like 90 degrees rotated from this diagram. And so we'll notice that the moon is going to appear darker in the northern part than
yeah.
than the southern part. So let's
Yeah.
go back to the feeds real quick and see if we can see that.
Yeah.
So we could see there's a prominent crater Tycho on the right side. It's not as dark as it is on the other side of the moon where most of the Maria are.
Yeah.
And
It's going to
Maria is
be
the dark
interesting.
parts of them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that develops throughout when we're in that total phase, which actually has now started. But in fact, that's what we can see. We can, even though the moon is totally engulfed in that umbral shadow, we're still seeing some graduation, and it is going to get deeper. That's going to get less as we go through. But John,
And that
let's, yes, go on.
and that would make but what makes these lunar eclipses really exciting, yeah, the
Mm,
moon is blushing, but every time we have one of these lunar eclipses, the trajectory is a little bit different. So you're always going to get a
yeah,
unique blushing moon every eclipse, lunar
yeah.
eclipse.
And also, the color can change dramatically depending on the atmosphere, depending on how high the moon is for the local observer. But we have
Hmm.
seen some of the deepest, real blood red moon eclipses that I've seen have been after large volcanic eruptions around the world when the skies, the atmosphere's got lots of dust in it. But look at that color. That is such a beautiful image. I know people are commenting, Slooh members are in chat in Zoom. And they are snapping away their images from this live feed. John, without sunlight, let's move on to a slightly different subject, but without sunlight on Earth, we know the temperature drops. It's probably colder where you are than it is for me in the UK because I'm in daylight. But what about the moon? What temperature is it usually, and what does the temperature do during an eclipse? Does it change much?
It's a pretty good question. Now, without direct sunlight, the moon's surface temperature rapidly drops. Typically, the moon's temperature when you're on the equator of the moon in sunlight is about 127 degrees Celsius, which is about 250 degrees Fahrenheit. During a total lunar eclipse, when the Earth is blocking the sun for a few hours, the surface temperatures can fall to about minus 100 degrees Celsius,
Wow,
which is about minus 148 degrees Fahrenheit.
wow. John, we can't notice it so much now, and we did broach on the subject a little earlier, but during that partial phase, um, we've been seeing the shape of Earth's shadow on the moon, and it doesn't look like a straight line, right?
Yeah, that's right. We've been seeing that. Even though it hasn't been very crisp, we have been seeing that there's a little curvature to the shadow of the Earth onto the moon, which actually provides observational proof that the Earth is a sphere. And what's really cool is we aren't the first ones to record it. Greek astronomers back in the 5th century BCE, Empedocles and Anaxagoras, they used lunar eclipses as evidence that the of a spherical Earth. And you can learn more about this fascinating history actually in one of Slooh's quests. It's the geocentrism versus heliocentrism quest.
Yeah. So, John, we can see the entire disk of the moon tonight. It doesn't seem like that we can really see the detail of many surface features. Why is that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think a lot of folks think that during full moons, when you can see the entire disk of the moon, you should be able to see all of the surface features. But in the full moon is when the light striking angle from the sun is basically hitting straight down on the moon. So there's
Mm,
virtually no shadows being cast on the moon. And we need that shadows in order for us to have a little bit of contrast to point out some features.
yeah, I mean, and that's why I love a thin crescent. I love a quarter moon as well, because we see so much detail when that sunlight's hitting those features, craters, valleys, mountain ranges, and some of them casting there, such as one of my favorites, John, is when you see a crater and it has that little dimple in the middle and the sun is just skimming over. Most of the crater is in shadow, but that little peak in the middle from the impact is just standing proud and illuminated. So I do love
It
that.
it's so exciting. And it's perfect for the Lunar Features quest too. When
Yeah.
you look at different phases of the moon, and different phases will have these awesome things like what you just pointed out, and it's a lot of fun.
So you did mention this. You mentioned the dark areas earlier. Are those the best features to see during a full moon or during a lunar eclipse?
Those are one of the main features to see during a lunar eclipse. We could see the it's called the moon's Maria or lunar seas. But we can also see what are called rayed craters right now.
Yeah.
Like on the right side, we can see this prominent crater called Tycho, and there's these streaks coming from seemingly emanating from the center of the crater.
Yeah,
And
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 that's even more evident, isn't it? When we just see a full moon, it's a little more difficult to see here, but we can see that kind of spider web of rays. What causes those, and why are they so bright?
So when an impactor crashes onto the moon, it blasts rock and dust from beneath the surface, spreading it in all directions. This is called ejecta. And
Right,
the fresher and lighter the ejecta is, the younger the eclipse or the younger the crater is. And the ejecta is basically like you could think of them as small glass beads. They contain less iron oxide than the surrounding material, which makes them more reflective than the surrounding lunar material, making it easier for us to see. Now, what's
right.
interesting though is over tens of millions of years, tiny impacts from space and solar radiation causes that ejecta to fade, and the material gets darker and eventually blends into the moon's surface. And so that's
Right.
why rayed craters like Tycho and Copernicus, which you can kind of see in
Yeah,
the
just about.
bottom part of the right in the center of that bright dark Maria there.
Yeah.
Um, that's why we can see them. And so what's really interesting is if you see a crater on the moon and there's no ejecta around it, then that crater is well over 10 million years old.
Wow. So the new impact craters, we see all that brightness, but why are the Maria so dark then?
So this goes back to what it's made out of, and the Maria is basically made out of basalt, which is a volcanic rock that's darker than the lighter, more reflective highlands and the rayed ejecta. Now the basalt absorbs more sunlight than it reflects, so that's why it appears dark to us here on Earth.
So that word means sea in Latin, but they're anything but seas, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And it's because early astronomers actually thought that the Maria on the moon might be oceans. And
Yeah.
when you see the moon in Slooh's telescopes and even here in the feeds, it looks like it's a very smooth
Mm,
part of the moon. But we know now that those are actually vast plains of solidified lava that came to the surface of the moon shortly after it formed in one of the first bombardments of impactors on the moon. Now, even though the Maria looks smooth from far away, if we were standing on one, the surface would be covered in many tiny craters and rocks from billions of years of space debris hitting the moon. And you can see some of those images in uh, our Apollo program quest. So,
yeah.
thanks for, yeah.
Oh, John, that is that we have covered so much in that segment. That was absolutely brilliant. What a terrific tour through those eclipse phases and those fascinating lunar phenomena. And we're going to see you back in the group discussion a little bit later, I hope.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, John. Now then, I am thrilled to hand over the baton to Dr. Emma Loudon Kane, Emma Kane Loudon, Slooh's president, who has a very special guest joining her today. Emma has brought Slooh a renewed energy and passion since joining us last year, and tonight is no exception. Emma's going to be joined by Elania Ramage, author of To the Moon and Back, Reese's book club pick. And on a night when the moon is literally blushing, we couldn't think of a more perfect guest. Emma, welcome. We can't wait to meet Elania and hear what's in store. So I'll hand over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. So I'm super excited to be here tonight and particularly excited to be joined by Eliana Ramaj, who is the author of the stunning debut book To the Moon and Back, which is a Reese's Book Club pick, a Book of the Month Club pick, a book that I devoured as soon as I got my hands on it and absolutely love. It's about a young woman's quest to become the first Cherokee astronaut. But as Eliana discovered while writing it, it's really a book about people on Earth through the lens of their quest to go to space, which feels like the perfect lens for watching tonight's lunar eclipse together. Eliana, welcome to Slooh.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been amazing.
Yay, we're so excited and thank you for getting up bright and early to be with us
Of
today.
course.
So let's start by talking about the dream that's held by this main character in the book, Steph, and her desire to go be an astronaut. The book is filled with incredible stories about the places and people who she meets on that journey and the science and just kind of space research in general that she engages in. How did you research all of those topics when you were writing this book?
In so many ways. Well, I would say all of this started more seriously when I went to college. So I was 18 then. I'm about to turn, like next week, I'll be 35. So a long time writing this and researching. A lot of the research happened just in life as things would come up. So in college, I took several science classes, not as a science major, and as someone who actually didn't do particularly well in a lot of those classes. But these science classes really stuck with me to the point that several of them even ended up being in the book. I took astronomy classes, oceanography, animal behavior, natural disasters and catastrophes, like all of these things ended up being research. But another thing I did was say yes to any opportunity that came up in that like 15-year period to lean into something. So if someone told me about the memoir of an astronaut, then I would read that. If there's a documentary, if I was on vacation somewhere, I would look up to see what science museums were in the area. It was just because it was such a slow process, things would happen and I'd be like, okay, we're gonna, we're gonna say yes to that.
I love that. You've also mentioned that you read a lot of books, like you were saying, by scientists, by astronauts. Are there any like top two or three that you would recommend?
My favorite, but I have a number one, and it's called Lab Girl by I think her name is Hope Jahren,
Yeah, love that.
Jahran. I loved that book, and it was what I read after I had read a couple memoirs of astronauts. It was early in the research, and that's a book where she's a scientist who spends all of her time in a lab. She's not someone who goes to space. And so to go from these like really dramatic, really exciting memoirs to kind of the like deep and quiet life of like this is what it looks like to be a scientist. It was just it felt like a very true um understanding of what that life could be for someone.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful book. I love that one.
Mhm.
Uh, Books like that are how I fell in love with space and first learned about it. So it's fun to see that they inspired this incredible book that is also a fun way to learn about space and bring that people take to it. To the Moon and Back is a story that is so deeply intertwined with the emotions of the people who are in it, but at its core, it presents a optimistic view of the future and the world that we're building. And in preparing for this, I found a quote from you where you talked about how Star Trek actually shaped your optimistic view of space, which I think is something a lot of our viewers tonight can resonate with, something I personally resonate with. So I'm curious about how that optimistic view of space and it's our responsibility to make the world a better place that comes from that perspective, how that influenced how you wrote about Steph's ambition in the book.
When my childhood was in the 90s. Um, I don't know if it was the 90s or if it was just being a kid, but I remember getting a lot of messaging about how there are aliens and they're scary and they're gonna come get us. And so that could have been, and sometimes it was an anxiety. But before I met that idea as a kid, I watched Star Trek with my brothers. It was Star Trek The Next Generation was the one that I watched first. And that is such an optimistic story. It's a suggestion for here's one future we could be building towards, one that's built on an inclusive future. It's built on collaboration and making all of these decisions with the help of science to get to a kinder future. So I think having that as the earliest story I had about space meant that that was that look I had when I was learning about scary things in the news. It was that look I had when I was like a kid in science classes trying to understand like, well, why are we asking these questions? Like, why does it matter when we get really, really into the nitty-gritty of something that maybe I don't understand? Um, so I think when I was later writing a book about someone who wanted to be an astronaut, parts of her coming of age arc, sometimes they're really selfish. Sometimes she's thinking like, I want to be an astronaut because like, like just for myself and like what like I can do it. I'm competing against 10,000 applicants to get into the astronaut candidate program. Like this is for me. And then sometimes she needs to step back and really get at what is space exploration really about. Could it be about something much, much greater and kinder than just herself? And that's something I think I got from Star Trek.
I love that. I think that's a mindset that permeates a lot of the people who watched that show, and I'm so
Yeah,
grateful it helped shape how we think about our future in space.
I agree.
So in the book, the main character, Steph, she is dead set on becoming this astronaut and going to space and kind of getting as far away from Earth as possible,
Mm,
to the moon and beyond. But the book also keeps pulling us back to her roots, to her family, to the Cherokee Nation, to her mother, to her sister. How did you hold that tension between telling the story of somebody trying to escape Earth and her being brought back
mm.
to the places and relationships and identities here on Earth that are so core to who she is?
I think that's a central tension of the book. The book's Cherokeeness, it's a huge part of what it is because when I think of Steph, potentially going to space, she's bringing her whole self. She's bringing her family, her tribal nation. So in her case, that's like 400,000 other Cherokee people alive today, and her ancestors. I think we all do that, wherever we come from or wherever we set our ambitions. She doesn't realize that at first, or she doesn't appreciate that for sure. So I think when she's growing up, part of that tension is when your ambition is for something that's so hard to achieve like that, you might focus more on, in her case, like being from this small community is a limitation. I should be at this prep school so that I can get into this university so that I can get to the moon. Just this focus on like achievement and what she needs to do. And what the book keeps saying that because the book it does not just have her voice, it has the voices of all of these other people who love her and have their own ambitions and their own lives going on. The book, I think, realizes before she does that these relationships with other people are they form her, they challenge her, and they give her clarity on why she wants to go to space, you know, what she wants to live for. I think we all do that for one another, even if we disagree with one another's choices or where we want to go. I do think that's something that's a gift that we give each other.
I love that framing. I think it is a gift that we're able to share that with one another as we go after different dreams and different hold
Yeah.
that tension. This book is full of different types of tension, and offers a lot of complexity around identity and ambition and what we owe to our planet, to our community, to our family, to ourselves, and how these can contradict each other. Reading it, it really resonated to feel that pull, but the book also doesn't offer neat answers about any of that. And I'm curious if that ambiguity was intentional from the start or if it emerged as you wrote these different characters.
That's definitely something that emerged for me. Um, when I started it at 18, I knew that I was going to learn a lot in college, not just academically. Like I think you know before you go to college, like this is a place where a lot of coming of age happens. So at 18, none of the characters in the book for me were older than I would say 21, because I felt like there are some really hard questions that this book is asking, but by the time all these characters are 21 and by the time I'm 21, then I'm going to know the answers. And then I turned 21 and I didn't. And I kind of aged up some of the characters and felt like we're going to keep writing this book. By the time these characters are 25, like that's when, like your brain is fully developed. That's when these characters are going to have these answers. And that didn't happen for me or for these characters. So that happened several times. Now I think the book ends when some of these characters are in their 40s. And it doesn't end now because they are completely self-actualized to know the meaning of life. It happens because this book was, as I was growing up, an exercise in being comfortable with ambiguity, embracing it, feeling like now, whether it's in a book or in life, when we're engaging with those most difficult questions, those I now think are the richest ones. And they're the ones that, like science, like we find joy and meaning in continuing to ask them and talk about them with each other.
Absolutely. It's just like, I mean, to me, it feels like sort of a similar feeling of we never fully can wrestle with the idea of being so small in such a big universe. It's the like we have to sit with that tension, same as sitting with the tension of ambition and belonging and identity that's so beautifully woven together in this novel. So tonight we are all looking up at the moon together through these telescopes, people from all over the world with different backgrounds, different experiences. I think we're about 5 minutes away from the peak and the moon is looking just gorgeous. What do you think happens when we look at space together? And what do you hope people take from Steph's story as they look up at the moon together tonight?
The first thing that stuck out to me jumping on this Zoom before we were even really looking at the moon, was when the first presenter said, like, it's 10:30, I'm in the UK. And I was like, oh, or I guess it's whatever time it was. And for me, I was like, it's four something, in Nashville. And it's just even before we look at the moon, the idea that we're here together from different parts of the world looking at the same thing. We're looking at it in different locations, but we're also looking at it from different times in our lives. When I look at the moon, I remember that when I was a kid, every time we saw the moon outside, my parents would sing like, I see the moon sees me, God bless the moon, and God bless me. Just like these little things where there are these really special moments, like what we're seeing right now, this particular moment where it's actually an eclipse. It's different, but just even the moon on a daily basis, it holds the consistency of that is like in each person's life. It's just always there. And seeing it brings up these past memories again that we all have. And the uncertainty of the good, the happy uncertainty of how we don't know what's next. And especially it makes me think about childhood, but it also makes me think about slow progress. And it makes me think about scientists, about this, again, like slow and consistent progress, and curiosity.
Yeah, and built around an optimism for the future. I love that. Well, Eliana, thank you so much. This has been such a beautiful and fun conversation. And for anybody interested in reading To the Moon and Back, we'll put a link in the chat. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous novel and perfect for anybody who's interested in space. And also all of these incredible deep themes that are about the people and who are exploring space. Tonight we have something very exciting around creativity in the moon, inspiring us here on Earth. So we have our poetry contest to share tonight. So in the spirit of tonight's theme, with science and creativity coming together, we invited the Slooh community to submit original poetry inspired by the lunar eclipse. And we were looking for poems that were thoughtful, scientifically informed, emotionally evocative. We welcomed any style as long as astronomy and the wonder of the night sky shone through. And our judges were looking for creative expression, vivid imagery, and out of the box thinking. And the response from our community was truly extraordinary. As a personal note, I love both poetry and obviously I love space. So this is a really fun merging of those two. And so with the moon at its most spectacular, I can't think of anybody more perfect to announce our winner than Eliana. Would you do the honors?
It'd be my pleasure. The winner of Slooh's Lunar Eclipse Poetry Contest is Luke Deaton, a senior at Chaparral High School in Scottsdale, Arizona. Luke, congratulations. We're so honored by your contribution. The name of Luke's poem is Phoenician Moon, and let's hear his winning poem now.
Hi, I'm Luke Deaton, and on Slooh I'm known as the Neptunian Phoenix, and I, so I'm one of the winners of the poetry contest for Slooh, obviously, and I'm just here to read my poem because I wasn't able to be there, be at the Star Party Live because of timing issues. I live on the West Coast, not the West Coast, but I live in Mountain Standard Time in Arizona. So if I were to be at the Star Party, it'd be 3 a.m. for me. So I'm just here to read my poem, and yeah. The sun sets as the day ends, darkness. Ashes of a once bright flame lay dormant. Darkness spreads, envelops all in the cold night. Ashes ignite in a flurry of light. The phoenix arises. Wings spread across the crescent moon. Shadows of the old day flee, chased away. Arise, phoenix, arise. Torch in the darkness, light the world. Harbinger of new dawn, from ashes reborn. Winds of change, stoke the flames of rebirth. For a brighter tomorrow, for all humanity. Phoenix, go forth. Born to spread your wings and soar, screeching across the endless sky. Harbinger of new dawn, light the world, chase the shadows away. When day breaks, humanity rises, born to inherit the stars. In new dawn, Phoenix, lead for a brighter tomorrow for all humanity. Right, that was my poem. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed that.
Wow, that was incredible. Eliana, thank you so much for announcing our winner. What did you think of it before you go?
So beautiful. I'm so happy to be here and I've gotten to hear that with all of you.
And what do you make of this live image coming in from New Zealand? It's pretty spectacular, isn't it?
It's incredible.
What
Thank
do you
you.
feel when you see one of these transient phenomena in the night sky? I mean, it just reawakens my awe and wonder and excitement about it all. But how about you?
I've never seen it like this. And so I
Okay.
think what I was talking about earlier in terms of, it's the consistency and you're always seeing the same moon over the course of your life. Like that is true. And yet I have definitely never seen it with a telescope on Zoom at like whatever time it is at 5:30 in the morning with all of you. And so I think it's like these special moments, these phenomena that remind us that there is so much more to learn. There's so much more to see.
There is. Thank you very much. I will say for our viewers on social, I couldn't sum up your interview with Emma better than Carol Both, who's watching from South Africa. She said this was such a beautiful, inspiring, thoughtful interview, so grounded in reality that I almost forgot to snap the moon. So, Eliana, we'll see you a little bit later in the group discussion, but thank you very much for that now. Thanks to Eliana, and huge congratulations to you, Luke Deaton. What a wonderful poem. I'm going to re-listen to that a little bit later. But Luke is not alone tonight. We received extraordinary entries from young astronomers around the world, and we want to share two more with you right now. From India, high school physics student Shirija Pal with Silver Paw.
Hello everyone, myself Shorjo Pal from India, and today I am gonna read out a poem which is written by me. The name of the poem is Silver Paw. You can see this is the hard copy of the poem and it is written by me, and the poem goes like: Our earth has a pet, a loyal little hound. The moon is its name, always circling round. Like a puppy that follows its master's stride, it runs through the dark, never leaving Earth's side. When Earth gives a scolding, the poor pup hides, curling into shadows, a new moon in disguise. But praise makes it shimmer, it proudly ignites, beaming all day as a full moon of light. Sometimes at play, it slips out of view, a cosmic peekaboo it's left to do. Behind Earth's great shadow, it giggles, it waits. That's how a lunar eclipse imitates. Bound not by rope, but a gravity song, a silver leash pulls it gently along, a quiet companion in night's deep hue. It circles our world like a promise kept true. Thank you, everyone.
Wow, that was fun. I was totally drawn into that one, and what a performance! I think we found a new Slooh host. So let's get rid of the old guard. Let's, yeah, Carol and people in chat are liking that one too. But they're not alone. We've got one from Finland too, high school student Alina Turvo, and this was her submission.
Hi, my name is Alina, and here is my poem. You wake up in the middle of the night. Your heart beats, something isn't right. Throughout the glass bleeds lunar light. Earth sleeps between you and the sun. Perfect alignment has begun. The moon turns dim, its silver gun. Red light bends and carries on. Lunar surface cools in red. Solar rays bend, the physics said. Electrons hum, the shadow fades away. Celestial mechanics guide the day. Thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant. The judges had a whale of a time reading through all of the submissions, but there you go, 3 continents, 3 young voices, all looking up at the same moon tonight. This is what Slooh is about, sharing that awe and wonder of the night sky together. And here we are, we're still looking at this beautiful blushing moon. This is going very rosy red now. This is absolutely extraordinary. But anyway, now we are going to head to Western Australia and the Gravity Discovery Centre and Observatory, where Rick Tonello has been providing our live feed from Australia tonight. So the centre is an absolutely remarkable place. If you do visit anywhere near there, make sure you get down there. It's dedicated to exploring the science of space and gravity and the universe, but also to inspiring wonder under the spectacular skies of the Southern Hemisphere. Rick plays a key role in sharing that experience with the public, and tonight he'll also be sharing some of the cultural stories and significance of the moon and eclipses from his part of the world. Rick, we're so glad to have you with us. Welcome.
Hey, Paul, it doesn't seem like Rick has made it on yet. He was being pulled away by the news to give an interview. So
Okay.
let's jump ahead to Milton, and
We
then we'll
will.
get back with
We
the
will. Well, we'll carry on going because we are running a little bit behind time now. So we'll hop over to Milton. And then following that, we've got our group panel discussion, and Rick can join in there as well with the person who's responsible for this awesome, epic. I don't know, I've run out of superlatives for this. The feed from Andrew Buckingham down at Astro NZ in association
Absolutely wonderful to
and
be with you
Astronomical
here.
Society. But yeah, so joining us now is Milton Villarreal, Mr. V to his students, a Slooh champion, educator, archaeoastronomy specialist with a deep knowledge of the astronomical traditions of South and Central America. Milton, welcome. We're glad to have you with us.
Thank you, Paul. An absolute pleasure to be with you today. Well, what a wonderful,
Good. So
colorful
Milton,
day this started.
I know it's a good one, isn't it? It really is an absolutely epic eclipse. I don't think I've seen such a deep color. I think this is more than blushing now. But Milton, we're going to talk a little bit about how some ancient civilizations viewed eclipses and the moon. And when most of us think of the Maya, we think of Mexico, but the Maya world was much larger than that. When did this remarkable civilization actually thrive? Think we've got a bit of a time delay for Milton. No, I know.
No, he dropped off.
Oh
my
no!
No.
Never mind. We can catch up during the group panel discussion, which we'll kick into now. So that's caught everybody a little bit by surprise, but please join in when you can. Open your mics, tell me when you're here, and we'll start our group discussion. I know, Keith, you had another element of the science behind what we're saying tonight. So maybe you can tell us about that.
Well, sure. As I mentioned, all of us here on Slooh just absolutely love the moon. And when you love the moon, you get to learn a little bit more about her. And another reason why she's blushing because of that annular we had 2 weeks ago. When the moon is further away from the Earth, it orbits a little bit more slowly, which means when it's closer to the Earth, like it is now, it happens to, if you catch it just right, to orbit a little bit faster than it does rotate on its axis. And when that happens, you get to see part of the moon that we don't always see.
Yes.
Dr. John mentioned that the moon is tidally locked to the Earth, which means we only see one part of the moon. There are actually features on the moon that we do see during special times, and this is one of the times. And that's why the moon is blushing, because the moon is sharing part of those features, some of that side of her that we don't always get to see. And that's what we're seeing tonight on what is the top part of the moon. We are seeing Mare Marginis and Mare Australe, which we don't normally see, and that's an effect that we call lunar libration. And we're seeing that tonight. So not only do we get the blushing moon and the eclipse, we also get this special treat of seeing three of these. Mare Humboldtianum is also up there, but not easy to see in this picture. We're getting to see some of these features that we don't always see.
We are. Have we got Dr. Emma Kane Loudon and Eliana with us as well?
Yes.
Emma, so I want to ask you directly, what do you feel when you see this kind of live stream coming halfway around the world and we're able to share it with our global membership? But what does this make you feel when you see it?
I think awe is the best word to describe it. I'm doing some reading about why looking up at the night sky makes us all kind of pause and breathe. And there's really cool neuroscience that actually shows when you look up at the night sky and look at the moon like this, look at the stars. Even if you like just any sort of event that brings you that kind of sense of awe, looking at the Grand Canyon, looking at mountains, it
Mm,
actually slows your perception of time. And then if you do it with other people, it bonds you together. And I think that for me, that's what this star party, and that's what I mean, it's what all of our work at Slooh is all about, is bringing people together around those shared experiences that invoke wonder and awe, so that we can all feel just a little bit more connected and a little bit more hopeful about the future that we're creating. And this is the first star party that I've joined since joining Slooh, and it's just incredible to see this community coming together around that shared experience of looking at this beautiful moon. I mean, it's
I
just
know.
amazing.
I know. Some great comments as well. We got some of the fellow Gravity Guild members in as well. Tell us a little bit about what the Slooh Fellow Gravity Guild is, Emma.
Yeah, so the Gravity Guild is an incredible group of Slooh members that I'm working with. They're some of our most engaged students who are helping with giving their feedback on parts of the platform and also contributing. So keep an eye out for blog posts from them about their favorite science and their stories and pathways in astronomy. And also, I mean, our winner tonight, Luke, is part of the Gravity Guild, and they're organizing observation campaigns for asteroids and
Yeah,
comets, doing all sorts of incredible science on the platform. So it is our pleasure to get to support them.
yeah, yeah. Emma, have you got any topics you'd like the group to talk about now?
Ooh, well, I think tonight one of our themes has been a combination of space and literature. We've
Mm,
heard a little bit about the books that have inspired Eliana, and I'm curious about others that the group would recommend to people who are interested in the moon, interested in science, interested in thinking about our future in space, and would open the floor for those recommendations. The bookworm in me loves those kinds of conversations.
yeah, does anybody want to chime in? Feel free.
I'm going to just chime in super quick, Paul, and let you know that Rick has made it on. So he is joining us.
Great. Hi, Rick. Good to see you. How are things down there?
Hi, Paul. It's absolutely wonderful. We seem to have attracted a crowd of people, but of course, it's made big news here locally. And of course, it is a wonderful view over the Perth City skyline. We've got a beautiful city, unfortunately, too much light pollution, but that's just me talking as an astronomer. But when you see it against, see the total lunar eclipse amongst the city skyline, it's something pretty darn special.
Brilliant. What time is it there?
Currently, it is 7:48 in the evening, and
Okay.
it's a beautiful early autumn evening. It's temperature still around, say, 25 degrees Celsius, and it's just perfect.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, it's even better, I always find, if you've got a crowd of people around you, because the buzz around these events is always absolutely epic. How does we're looking at your image feed now. How does that compare with what you're seeing visually? Is it quite a good representation of what you're seeing down in Australia?
Yes, what we see in Australia at the moment up in the sky with our naked eye, the moon is extremely dull, but the sort of top, I don't want to say corner because that's kind of silly, but the top part of the moon for us is just slightly brighter than the opposite corner, but it's still easily seen. In fact, it looks more three-dimensional for some reason or
Okay.
another. There's maybe something weird going on with my eyes, but that's me personally. What I might do is I might actually see if I can switch feeds and show you a picture, if I can, of the city landscape, the cityscape. Oh no, that was earlier today, but I'll have to muck around with the camera to actually get you
Okay.
the proper nighttime feed. But
Okay.
leave that with me and maybe mute me because there might be a few swear words.
No, 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 don't do that.
No, I won't. I'm on my best behavior tonight.
But you're used to that because tell
Yeah.
us we're kind of in our panel, but we're kind of freestyling at the
Mm,
moment.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit, though, about the Gravity Discovery Center and Observatory and your work there, and how do people visit you? When can they visit? It looks like you've already got quite a few there already, but tell us a little bit about the
Yeah.
Gravity Discovery Center.
Sure thing. So the Gravity Discovery Center is a hands-on interactive science center with the main focus of discussing, well, learning more about gravity and the difference between Newtonian and Einsteinian gravity. But now it's morphing more into astronomy and astrophysics along with gravity and physics as well. But we've also incorporated the natural landscape. So we do the biodiversity side of things, but we also have incorporated now for quite a while the local Aboriginal culture. So Aboriginal knowledge about the surrounding bush, but also most importantly about the stars themselves. So what we do up at the GDC Observatory is we're an education facility. So we teach, first of all, we get people to come up on the weekend, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, to look through our telescopes under some dark skies, which is always a wonderful thing. People always are agog at how many stars they can see as compared to, say, down in the Perth metropolitan area. But we have our telescopes, we show them through with our astronomer educated guides, and we have a great night. But most importantly, we get the future scientists of tomorrow coming up to being inspired about looking through a telescope. But we're hoping to achieve looking for a grant from our local government to improve our telescopes and our facilities by allowing the students to use the telescope, similar to what Slooh does, but actually be hands-on direct at the observatory. So they can control it from a different room or even control it from their school, but teach them different aspects, how to track asteroids, how to track space junk, but also to do other really cool projects like variable star observations and maybe even exoplanet transit detections as well. So, but that's still coming up. But for the here and now, people come along, they marvel at the night sky. A few of them get inspired, and they take the plunge and become an astronomer or an astrophysicist.
Brilliant.
But what else? Yeah, so people can come along and visit us. We're open most of the days of the week during the day, and we do our solar viewing sessions where we do look at the sun through a hydrogen alpha telescope and we learn a little bit more about our daytime star. But the place really shines at nighttime, where people can come along and see the Milky Way with their own eyes, which is a lot of people from the Perth metro area or any light pollution area, they miss out, which is a real shame.
And we've been talking about this all evening throughout the event. It's making those connections to the night sky. And looking through telescopes is fabulous. Looking at Slooh's live robotic telescopes is fabulous. But we urge everybody, don't we, to get out there, go into your own backyard, look up at the night sky with your own eyes and make those connections. And we were talking about, culture in Australia, and that's been incredibly important. It's a backbone, isn't it, of looking up at the night sky and sharing those stories.
Absolutely. Since the First Nations people who migrated here some 65,000 years ago or thereabouts, the time varies from 50,000 to 65,000, so a long time ago. But just the same, the knowledge of the local area of what time certain things happen in the sky was a matter of life or death. It is a case of they recognize certain constellations that they made up themselves. And those constellations vary from all the different language groups across Australia. It's not one homogenous language or one group. There are over 250 different language groups across Australia, and each of them have their numberless dialects, but those stories are linked to that particular area. So the term Aboriginal astronomy is a bit of a misnomer because you can get, I'm just going to move away from these people, but it's a bit of a misnomer because each area has its own stories, has its own special connection to the land. And that is a big thing with all the First Nations people across Australia, is that connection to the land. You see, here in Western Australia, or rather in the Perth region, I'm standing on Whadjuk Noongar territory. Now, the Noongar Nation extends up a few hundred kilometers to the north of us to a place called Mora, and then all the way down to the Great Southern, down towards Albany, and then east, almost just not quite towards Kalgoorlie. But Noongar territory is actually quite large. But within that Noongar territory, there are different mobs, as we call them. So here in the Perth area, this is Whadjuk territory. Up where the Gravity Discovery Centre Observatory, that's Ued territory. And then out towards the east, that's Balladong, and there's a number of different ones, little groups, or not little groups, but large areas.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm standing on the shores of what Australians, or what white Australians call the Swan River, but to the Noongar people it's called Derbil Yerrigan. And all this, any information that I'm providing, as in from the Noongar perspective, I wish to acknowledge our dear friend and learned colleague, Dr. Noel Nannup, who's a Whadjuk Noongar elder, and he's a really good friend of the GDC's. So he actually has taught me a lot about the Noongar culture. And I feel deeply enriched, especially the stories about the night sky. It was absolutely incredible. It's a real eye opener. So, but the connection for them is much, much deeper. But because of certain protocols they have to adhere to, they can only show an outsider like me so much.
Yeah.
But unless you're initiated into the culture, then you can go deeper into the deeper meanings of those stories. But irrespective, the what I've been given, I see as a precious gift. So I now can look at the sky either through Grecian constellations or through much, much, much older Noongar constellations, and I find that highly rewarding.
That must give you a totally different perspective on it. And it just reminds me of the millennia that people have been doing, humans have been doing exactly what we're doing tonight, sharing these wondrous occasions and events together. But Rick, thank you so much for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you very much for the live feed you provided as well. And say a big Slooh hello to everybody who's on the sidewalk with you there.
Hey, Paul, jumping
I will do.
Yes, Gretchen.
Andrew has joined us as well.
Yes, I just saw that he was in, and I was going to call him in before we go back to the group. So Andrew Buckingham of Astro NZ, in association with the Auckland Astronomical Society. Are you there?
Welcome, yes. Welcome from New Zealand.
Andrew, thank you so much for this epic feed you've given us tonight. It's absolutely extraordinary.
Yes. I've had a great night here. The weather's been perfect conditions, and it's been a superb view.
Brilliant. So tell us a little bit about Astro NZ and your association then with the Auckland Astro Society.
So we're a little bit different. As Astro NZ, or Astrons we call it, is basically a business that sells astronomy equipment, telescopes, binoculars, mounts, and astronomy equipment. But we're different in the fact that we are fully owned by the Auckland Astronomical Society, which is the largest astronomy club in New Zealand. And as well as being a business partner and supplying equipment, our mission is to support astronomy in New Zealand. So we are a not-for-profit like the society, and we support astronomy around New Zealand in as many ways as we can, and even events like this. So, and it's part of my backgrounds in public outreach astronomy and planetariums, and so I enjoy that part of sharing astronomy with the people around the
Brilliant.
sky.
Brilliant. So tell me, you've had the fortunate experience of being able to go outside and watch this eclipse with your own naked eye as well. We were talking earlier about sometimes the telescope and the camera and the settings can change the color. How much does your live feed represent what you were seeing, with your naked eye?
It's been pretty good. The image from you're seeing on screen is probably a little bit more richer and oversaturated than what you're seeing with your eye, mainly because just the exposures we're doing. We're constantly having to change the exposure length. They did tell me during totality we are doing 2,000 millisecond exposures, so reasonably long exposures compared to what we're doing earlier on, and with a gain on, and it's just tweaking it all the time so that we can pick up the image, and also we're doing a little bit of sneaky as well. We're actually using features of the moon, software to track features of the moon to make sure that the image is kept center as well. So we're doing some adjustments, guiding adjustments using moon features. So we need to have it bright enough for the software to be able to see the moon features.
Okay, that's a difficult one given the
Yeah,
changing illumination of that. But I had noticed just how
yeah,
perfect, well, we said that and it just hopped down, but
yeah.
how
We just
perfectly the tracking has been in your
yeah.
image feed tonight.
I mean, the mount is doing a very good job. We're using some of the equipment we sell. And one of my team, who's the astrophotographer in the team, is doing a great job out there monitoring it. But he said the mount is behaving very well, and very
Great.
few adjustments we had to do. But we've got that backup of it guiding as well, using
Brilliant.
the own features. So yeah, it's all part of the fun. But yeah, we had the image on our computer screens, on a TV screen, and seeing out the real thing outside as well. And they're all slightly different colors. And obviously, as we were
Yeah.
talking before, the eye is not as sensitive as the camera, so the camera and with that long exposure is just getting a little more red. And the same reason we're getting that, notice that the bright side, which is on the right hand side at the moment, which is the nearest the side of the moon that's nearest the edge of the shadow, has been slowly rotating around at the moment as we're heading out of
Yeah.
totality.
Have you had members of the public there as well for any kind of on-site event?
Not for this event. We haven't had here for this. We're just doing this privately at the moment, mainly because we haven't got a public event. Mainly because at the late hour here for most people, it is currently 1 a.m. in New Zealand on
Okay.
Wednesday morning. So we are in tomorrow now. So it's
Yeah.
yes, because of the late. So we're just doing it this way for tonight.
Yeah, it's great. We're spanning so many different time zones tonight.
Yeah.
We've got people from around the globe watching. But Andrew, thank you so much for providing this feed. It came online well before the event started as well. So that was wonderful to see those early
We're just
phases.
pleased we had a clear night in Auckland. It's been nice to have that good
Well,
weather.
us too. Thank you so much, and I wish you every success with Astro NZ and Auckland Astronomical Society. Take care and enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Wow. They are doing an absolutely splendid job. I tell you, it's quite nerve-wracking, when you provide a live feed because there are so many different things that can go wrong. And I do remember
Sorry,
one.
I'm on here.
I do remember one when I traveled to Cyprus and I was hosting and doing the live feed and doing way too many things at one time. It was very nerve-wracking. But anyway, let's go back to our panel. So let's who wants to chime back in? Gretchen, remind us what we were talking about with Dr. Emma Kane Loudon, please.
Oh, well, talking more about the community and how we're all getting together with art, creativity, universes for everyone. And yeah.
How
One of
about,
her favorite topics.
yeah. Well, tell us about what you're doing at Slooh at the moment then, Gretchen, because you've taken on a new role as well as event managing, talking about community and things.
Oh, well, thank you for asking. Yeah, I am doing more work with community and with what we like to call our customers, our members, and making sure that everyone's having a smooth experience with Slooh. And of course, offering these star parties in addition, that's all part of the community. And I am working with Dr. Emma. In fact, maybe I'll let her share
Oh,
her
yes.
her her project of the community gatherings that really support advocacy that have to do with seeing our night sky.
Sure, happy to chime in and talk about those. They're another kind of star party, stargazing together that we've started where it's focused around looking at the night sky together and then taking action together to make the world that we live in right now a better place in honor of that experience of looking at the night sky. So we're going to be keeping an eye out for events around International Dark Sky Week and a couple other fun ones planned for the spring. So Slooh members will be able to access those through the Star Party panel on the app. And we are very excited to be not just talking science with the community, but talking what we do to make our world better right now together.
Yeah, I think that's much needed. Thank you, Emma. Listen, we are just about running out of time, but I would just like to do around the houses And I'll start with you, Emma. Um, what's your overall messaging that you would give everybody watching out there when we see an event like this? What are your closing thoughts?
Go outside and look up. And if you can't watch these kind of feeds, but I'm gonna scamper outside right after this and see if I can spot the tail end of this eclipse here in California. But to just look up, because I think that looking up brings us a perspective on ourselves, the same theme we've been talking about all night. It helps connect us to each other, to our communities, to the world. It's amazing how looking up and away actually grounds us into the here and now.
Fine words. Thank you, Emma. Eliana, how about you? Any passing thoughts as we watch the total phase of this lunar eclipse coming to an end?
I would echo the looking up. I would say that what Emma said earlier, a bit back in the broadcast, she was saying the thing about how when you look up at the moon with other people, then that's such a wonderful thing to share. So I would give my vote for like, yes, we can look at the moon alone and we can have our deep and beautiful thoughts, but next time find some buddies. This has been really nice to share.
Yeah, great. With you all the way. Sharing these events. Sometimes it is nice just to have that little bit of solitude, looking up at the night sky. And when I'm at the observatories, I always take 20 minutes at the end of the work, and I just sit there on the car, looking up. But coming together and sharing these experiences, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Really.
So, thank you very much, Eliana. Let's hop over to Dr. John Bovair, Slooh's Director of Curriculum. John, what have you made of this particular lunar eclipse?
It's been an extraordinary one, and I definitely have to echo what was said before. We're participating in a shared experience that humanity has been doing for, well, since we've evolved into humans, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to have technology to actually connect everybody from around the world to have this shared experience around the world instead of just around a campfire. So I'm just very thankful and glad to be able to do that with everyone tonight.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Thank you for your expertise as well. And thank you for that special quest. I've been snapping images in the background. Got two mice and two laptops going on, so I'm capturing all of these images as well. And the image feed, John, is going to carry on going. So we're going to keep the event page live. So you can still be clicking images, although I think you probably need to get to bed, don't you?
Oh yeah, I do. Yep, my
John,
1-year-old's gonna get up soon, so I gotta get some more sleep.
thank you very much, John. Let's hop over to Keith. Keith Wozaleski. What do you make of this one? Keith, you've seen a lot of lunar eclipses.
This was a good one. Each one is different, and this one was different than what we've seen in the past. Everybody's pretty much said what I think my final thoughts are. Just again, the awe and wonder of what little bit, knowing a little bit goes a long way to help us appreciate a little bit more of what's happening. But even still, just going out and sitting under the moon, especially the full moon, is a real treat, and it's enjoyable just to look at it and appreciate it for what it is, as are all the things in the night sky.
It is. Thank you very much, Keith, for your expertise and enthusiasm that you bring to the community and to these events. So it's always a delight to see you. Thank you. Milton, let's hop over to you. Unfortunately, we couldn't talk to you very much, but what have you made of some of the live feeds tonight?
Well, it's been great, although just a listener, but with you all the time. And I'm sure there will be many, many more times to share some of what our users want to learn. Simply saying it's been a colorful day, and the Maya considered the moon the weaver. And that's how they elaborated their costumes, right? With plants and elements that were totally recyclable. I wanted to share that. And also,
I think
that they expressed their feelings has certainly expressed a lot tonight with
Milton, you're cutting out a little bit, so we'll have to wind it up there. But I do just want to.
and I cannot think of a better way to.
Okay, Milton is cutting out quite a bit, but I did want to actually finish with a comment from Carol Botha, who's in South Africa watching, Slooh member for many, many years. And I just wanted to read out her comment in chat. I know I always say this, but this has been a really extraordinary star party. It's been a total bonding experience and a seed of hope for the future of humanity. Thanks to all. I think you've said that perfectly, Carol. So thank you very much. And don't forget, Dr. Emma Kane Loudon has popped in the link to Eliana's book. What an extraordinary night or morning for some of us it's been. We watched the moon blush, turning from brilliant white to that deep red colour as she passed through Earth's shadow. We explored the science behind what we witnessed, journeyed through the cultural stories and myths that humanity has woven around this spectacular event for thousands of years, and celebrated the creativity of our own Slooh community with some beautiful poetry. I'm going to go straight back and listen to those again. To our incredible guests tonight, Dr. Emma Kane Loudon, Dr. John Bovair, Keith Wozaleski, Eliana Ramage, Milton Villarol, Rick Tonello, thank you very much for the live feed from Australia, and to Andrew Buckingham for your feed from Auckland, which has been absolutely awesome, and it still looks awesome. Your passion, all of your collective passion, knowledge, and generosity made this night truly special. So thank you all. Very special thank you to our feed partners. And unfortunately, we didn't. I'm just looking over on my other screen. We didn't get images from the Boksha Observatory in Indonesia. I think they got weathered out in the end. Another big thank you as well goes to Gretchen Bickert, who's been the event manager tonight, puts all of this on, makes life very easy for all of us. That's a stressful job. But to all of our Slooh members, keep exploring, keep observing, and keep snapping those images. And to everybody who joined us tonight for the first time, welcome to the Slooh community. The universe truly does belong to everybody, and we're glad that you were here. So until next time, clear skies, everyone. Don't forget the live feeds are going to carry on the event page on Slooh's website. So you can carry on snapping images so you can capture the entire event. And Luke's joined us as well. Hey, Luke, thank you very much. Everybody take care. Clear skies. Bye now.